a special bond with his late grandmother. Her name was Colonel Rochester Mill, which propelled him to write his fourth, fourth book, Love Conquers All, an unbreakable bond between two generations. We welcome again Jason Mills, who will share more with us. Good morning, Jason, and welcome to Sunrise.
Good morning, Raymond. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Good morning, Angelique.
All right, so I already wished I knew your grandmother, Colonel, because I know the position that a grandmother holds in keeping a family together. And of course, something tells me that you believe you were her favorite. Take it from there.
Yes, most definitely. She certainly lavished her love on me. She took me in her home at 7 months old. My mother, Maxine Davis, lived in Tivoli Gardens, and she was unable to raise me. And so she welcomed me into her home at 7 months old and grew me as her own son. And she did her best, made all the sacrifices she could that have helped me to succeed in everything that I've done so far.
Right. Navy veteran, talk to us about that.
Yes, I served in the United States Navy. I was honorably discharged in 2016 after serving, after which I did some years in Florida working at a college, and then I recently moved to Connecticut like 2 years ago to work for the federal government.
So tell us how the transition went then, out of the Navy, spent some time and then moved north. When did the writing start?
You know, I started writing at the age of 20 when I was in undergraduate. I was inspired by the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God, to write my first book, A Butterfly Restored. And I also did it in honor of my grandmother because she grew me up in the church and the Bible was very important to us. And so I made sure that I honored my grandmother in writing. Everything that I write is based on the Bible, including this new book.
Now, talk to us about this particular book. Well, actually, even before you focus on this book, what's the journey that you as the author take with respect to book one that was not said, that had to be said in book two, and still unsaid, which was said in book three? So what's the journey that takes us to book four?
You know, after writing my third book, Wounded Soldier, which dealt with the wounds we face as human beings, I decided that I wasn't going to write anymore because it's so much work. That book took me almost 4 years to write, and I actually did it while I was in the Navy. And so I thought to myself, I'm not going to write anymore. But then the Spirit of God spoke to me and said, there is more in me that I need to share. And so that's what brought me back to write this fourth book, which I started October of last year, and it took me 4 months to write this book. So I think it's something that's deep in me, that's something that has to come out. And that's how, it ended up developed and ended up on the pages. It's something that's deeper. It's something spiritual. You know, like you want to give birth to something and it's just in you. And if you don't do it, you can't be at rest. That's what happened with this book, Love Conquers All.
It's so interesting because you 4 years on book three, almost 4 years, and then book four in 4 months, in 1/10 of the time. When we pick up the book, what can we expect from this one?
You can expect to see a special bond between a grandmother and a grandson that is based on divine love. What makes this, you know, what's interesting is that the first book I wrote, the first chapter I wrote was about love. So I started writing about love. And it's so interesting that everything come back full circle where I talked about conquering love. Conquering love, in my mind, is the love that endures all situations. And that's what grandma gave me. Her love endured everything. She would give me her last dime to go to school when I attended the Carteret College in Mandeville. She would give me her last penny and go to bed hungry to send me to school. When she was in the States, even though she wasn't working, she would send me her allowance so I can go to school. And so everything that I've done, my education, my writing is really all in honor to her. Whenever I felt down and depressed and feeling like I can't press forward and do whatever it is I'm setting out to do, she gives me the inspiration to continue pressing forward. I'm like, I have to do it for grandma. I have to do it for grandma. And so that's what brought me here.
You're touching my heart, and I know you're touching the hearts of so many Jamaicans for whom their grandmother is the person who took them through, who did the things. I am one of those. Raymond is one of those.
And we're both from Manchester.
Both were something about the Clarion and the Manchester grandparents.
Yeah.
And you know what I noticed is that I think there's a little departure, Jason, from that kind of extended family support. So many children don't have that. I mean, for whatever reasons you end up with your grandmother, I think is the biggest blessing. But even if you're in your quote-unquote nuclear family, to have access to the love of a grandmother makes, life so much more rich as we grow up as children. If you could tell us, you talk about love, if you could tell us two things, that you learned from your grandmother that is still taking you through life today, what would it be? What are those things?
Those two things would be forgiving, learning to forgive under any circumstance, which I know can be difficult sometimes. That's number one, the power of forgiveness and the freedom and redemption it brings. And number two would be self-sacrifice. And that's different from sacrifice, because when you're self-sacrificing, you're giving up your own self, not expecting anything in return. I've seen my grandmother demonstrated those two things in action. And so it's cemented in my heart and spirit that no matter where I go, I have to forgive. And I have to self-sacrifice, even to this day.
What was your favorite meal that she cooked for you?
It's a good question, because I mentioned that at my book launch on Saturday, salt mackerel and banana.
Oh.
My favorite dish. That's my favorite dish. She cooked it for me for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Listen to me.
And banana.
If you never told us about the Manchester connection before, you just gave yourself away. Where can we get the book?
The book is available on Amazon, and it's actually available at a bookstore in Brownstown as well.
Yeah.
Yes, but on Amazon.
All right. And where can viewers follow you on social media?
They can follow me at Jayquest, JAYQUES on Facebook as well as on Instagram.
And it was your birthday yesterday, so happy belated birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Raymond.
Yes. # Gemini's Rock.
I know. Gemini.
# raised by a country grandmother, raised Manchester grandmothers, the best.
Absolutely.
Well, all the very best to you on this journey. I have a feeling that there's a book 5 stirring. The Holy Spirit has revealed it to me, and I know He would therefore have already revealed it to you. All the very best with Love Conquers All, an unbreakable spiritual bond between two generations, written by Jayquest, Jason Mills, our guest this morning. All the very best, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Angelique. I appreciate it, Raymond. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to join your show.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
I had goosebumps when you talked about